What's popping, people? First off, I would like to say happy Gregorian New Year to you guys. And I would like to start off this Gregorian New Year by giving you guys a history lesson of New Year's Day. Because it's funny that in the history of man, a lot of cultures and civilizations usually celebrate the New Year or acknowledge the New Year in the springtime. Thus, acknowledging the New Year on January 1st or in the middle of the winter time is actually relatively new in the history of man. Because once again, most civilizations within their respective calendars acknowledge the New Year, whether in the springtime, some in the fall. But I'll break this down to you as I read this article to you guys. This article is from history.com. And the link to this article is located in the video description box underneath. This article was updated on December 20th, 2022. It was originally posted on February 16th, 2010, almost 13 years ago. And it was written by Jason Dean. The article starts off by stating this: civilizations around the world have been celebrating the start of each new year for at least 4 millennia. AKA 4,000 years. Today, most New Year's festivities begin on December 31st, New Year's Eve, the last day of the Gregorian calendar, and continue into the early hours of January 1st, New Year's Day. Common traditions include attending parties, eating special New Year's food, making resolutions for the new year, and watching fireworks displays. Before I continue reading, I would like to say that this may be common knowledge to a lot of people watching this video, but at the same time, this may be new information for a lot of people who are currently watching this video. Either way, if you're interested, keep watching. If you're not, fuck it. But anyhow, let me go and continue reading this article. Ancient New Year celebrations. The earliest recorded festivities in honor of a New Year's arrival date back some 4,000 years to ancient Babylon. Some will say Mesopotamia, but ancient Babylon and Mesopotamia are really the same area, right? I'll continue reading. For the Babylonians, the first new moon following the vernal equinox, aka the spring solstice, the day in late March with an equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded the start of a new year. They marked the occasion with the massive religious festival called Akitu. So I'm going to stop right here. Like I just stated, ancient civilizations, for the most part, acknowledged the new year in the spring. And like this article just told you, that the earliest known festivities for people celebrating New Year's Day occurred in ancient Babylon, aka ancient Mesopotamia, where the beginning of the new year was in the springtime. But once again, other civilizations celebrate the new year in different times of the year too, as you'll see as I continue reading this article. But for the most part, most civilizations celebrate the new year in the spring. Even in ancient Rome, where we get our current calendar from, which is the origin of our current calendar. The current calendar that we're under is called the Gregorian calendar, which was created by a Roman Catholic Pope named Pope Gregory the 13th. That's the current calendar we're under. But the origin, what the hell? But the origin of our current calendar dates back to ancient Rome, and even the first Roman calendar acknowledged the new year in the springtime, as you'll see. But I'll continue reading, right? Okay. They, the Babylonians, marked the occasion with the massive religious festival called Akitu, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in the spring. That involved a different ritual on each of its 11 days. In addition to the new year, Atiku, or not Akitu, Atiku, celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat, and served an important political purpose. It was during this time that a new king was crowned, or that the current ruler's divine mandate was symbolically renewed. Don't that sound familiar? In America, even though when it's election time, it mostly starts in November. But even though a politician is elected in November, their term doesn't begin until the first month of the new year. So isn't it funny that what you see when politicians start their term is not that different when it comes to leaders in ancient Babylon? And you wonder why America is considered to be modern day Babylon. But I'll continue reading. Did you know in order to realign the Roman calendar, did you know in order to realign the Roman calendar with the sun, Julius Caesar had to add 90 extra days to the year 46 BC when he introduced his new Julian calendar? Throughout antiquity, civilizations around the world developed increasingly sophisticated calendars, typically pinning the first day of the year to an agricultural or astronomical event. In Egypt, for instance, the year began with the annual flooding of the Nile, which coincided with the rising of the star Sirius. The first day of the lunar new year, meanwhile, occurred with the second new moon after the winter solstice. It's funny that History.com states that the new year in ancient Egypt started after the winter solstice, because other sources stated that the new year in ancient Egypt started in the fall. But hey, I'll continue reading. January 1st becomes New Year's Day. The early Roman calendar consisted of 10 months and 304 days, with each new year beginning at the vernal equinox, the spring. Vernal equinox, that's just another word to say spring solstice or the springtime, right? According to tradition, it was created by Romulus, the founder of Rome, in the 8th century BC. A later king, Numa Pompilius, is credited with adding the months of Januarius and Februarius, aka January and February. Over the centuries, the calendar fell out of sync with the sun, and in 46 BC, the Emperor Julius Caesar decided to solve the problem by consulting with the most prominent astronomers and mathematicians of his time. He introduced the Julian calendar, which closely resembles the more modern Gregorian calendar that most countries around the world use today. As part of his reform, Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year. Yeah. Prior to the Julian calendar, right? Like I said before, the ancient Romans celebrated the first day of the year. Well, like this says, in the spring. It wasn't until 46 BC, when Julius Caesar became emperor, that ancient Rome celebrated the new year in January 1st, which was due to Julius Caesar having a new calendar, like the article stated, starting a new calendar called the Julius calendar, which is really the root of the calendar that we use today, as the article suggested or stated. As part of his reform, Julius Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor the month's namesake, Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, whose two faces allowed him to look back into the past and forward into the future. So therefore, part of the reason why Julius Caesar changed the new year from the springtime to January 1st was to give honor to the Roman god Janus, which was the Roman god of new beginnings. So therefore, celebrating January 1st as the new year is pagan. It's not me stating this, it's history that's stating this. It's a pagan practice. But I'll continue reading. Romans celebrated by offering sacrifices to Janus, exchanging gifts with one another, decorating their homes with laurel branches, and attending raucous parties. Sounds familiar? What do people do in New Year's Day in today's time? Party their ass off. Just like people did in ancient Babylon. Party their ass off. Right? You know, people don't, well, of course, people in today's time in the Western world, we don't sacrifice animals, but we party our asses off, right? Which is no difference from what people did in ancient Rome and ancient Babylon. And once again, you wonder why America is considered to be modern day Babylon. And you also wonder why America is also considered the reincarnation of ancient Rome. But I'll continue reading. In medieval Europe, Christian leaders temporarily replaced January 1st as the first of the year. Excuse me. I'll read this sentence all over. In medieval Europe, Christian leaders temporarily replaced January 1st as the first of the year with days carrying more religious significance, such as December 25th, the anniversary of Jesus' birth, which is not true. You know, Jesus was not, or who the world considers to be Jesus, was not born on December 25th, but I'll continue reading. And March 25th, the Feast of the Annunciation. Pope Gregory the 13th reestablished January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582. And I think in 1582 was the same year that Pope Gregory the 13th created the Gregorian calendar, which is, once again, the calendar that most of the world follow today. And then he reinstituted it to the new year as January 1st, when he created that new calendar. I'll continue reading. New Year's traditions and celebrations around the world. In many countries, New Year celebrations begin on the evening of December 31st. Hold on. Yeah, I ain't gonna read this. I ain't gonna read the rest of this. If you guys want to read the rest, once again, you could click on the link in the video description box underneath. But yeah. But let me show you guys this other one. Hold on. Yeah. This right here is from Britannica.com, right? And once again, the link to this article is located in the video description box underneath. This article was written by Amy Tikkanen. Why does the New Year start on January 1st? In many countries, the New Year begins on January 1st. However, this wasn't always the case. In fact, for centuries, other dates mark the start of the calendar, including March 25th and December 25th. Okay. Other dates mark the start of the calendar, including March 25th and December 25th. So how did January 1st become New Year's Day? We can partly thank Roman king Numa Pompilius. According to tradition, during his reign, circa 715 to 673 BCE, Numa revised the Roman Republican calendar so that January replaced March as the first month. It was a fitting choice since January was named after Janus, the Roman god of all beginnings. March celebrated Mars, the god of war. Some sources claim that Numa also created the month of January. However, there is evidence that January 1st was not made the official start of the Roman year until 153 BC. You know, it's funny. It's funny because this article states that the Roman king Numa Pompilius was the one that made January 1st the first day of the year. But other sources states that it wasn't him, that although he was the one responsible for creating January and February as the two newer months of the calendar year, that it wasn't until when Julius Caesar arrived, that's when the new year was officially started on January 1st. As so the last article suggested, right? And other sources suggest that also. Okay. In 46 BCE, Julius Caesar introduced more changes. Though the Julian calendar, as it became known, retained January 1st as the year's opening date, with the expansion of the Roman Empire, the use of the Julian calendar also spread. However, following the fall of Rome in the 5th century CE, many Christian countries altered the calendar so that it was more reflective of their religion. And March 25th, the Feast of Annunciation, and December 25th, Christmas, became common New Year's days. It later became clear that the Julian calendar required additional changes due to a miscalculation according to concerning leap years. The cumulative effect of this error over the course of several centuries caused various events to take place in the wrong season. It also created problems when determining the date of Easter. Thus, Pope Gregory XIII introduced a revised calendar in 1582. In addition to solving the issue with leap years, the Gregorian calendar restored January 1st as the start of the new year. While Italy, France, and Spain were among the countries that immediately accepted the new calendar, Protestant and Orthodox nations were slow to adopt it. Great Britain and its American colonies did not begin following the Gregorian calendar until 1752. Before then, they celebrated New Year's Day on March 25th. So even in the United States of America, or back then the British colonies, January 1st was not recognized as the beginning of the new year in the United States until 1752. People in times of history, in times of antiquity, knew the pagan origins of January 1st being the new year, and knew that it was connected to a pagan god. The Hebrews, my ancestors, okay, my black Hebrew ancestors had their own calendar. And our God told us that the new year, right, or the first month of the new year was the month of fall is in the month of Nisan. According to the Gregorian calendar that we use, the month of Nisan would begin either in mid to late March, between mid to late March and early April. All right. As a matter of fact, hold on. Let me show you guys some scriptures concerning this. All right. And this is from the King James Bible, or the King James Version of the Bible. The book of Numbers, chapter 9, verse 1, where it states this. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, let the children of Israel also keep the Passover at his appointed season. In the 14th day of this month, which is the first month of the year, at evening, ye shall keep it in his appointed season. This is concerning when Israel will celebrate the Passover. And according to this scripture, the Passover will be celebrated on the 14th day or the 14th night of the first month, according to the Hebrew calendar. Now, for anyone that know anything about Passover, Passover occurs usually in the springtime, right? Passover usually occurs around March or April, right? According to the Gregorian calendar. And according to the Bible, the Passover is the 14th day of the first Hebrew month. So the first Hebrew month of the year falls in the springtime, which shows you that the Most High consider the new year to start in the springtime, not in the dead of winter. All right. So celebrating the new year or acknowledging the new year in January 1st is pagan, as I pointed out the pagan history to it. Okay? And my point in making this video is not to pass judgment on anybody. It's not to put anybody down. My goal is to just educate, enlighten, and edify. For so people can know the origins of what they do and the origins of the customs that they currently celebrate. That is it. But I'll go to another source concerning the history of January 1st being the new year. You know, this is from infoplease.com. And once again, the link to this article is located in the video description box underneath. You know, I'll go down here, right? In medieval Europe, however, the celebrations accompanying the new year were considered pagan and unchristian-like. And in 567, the Council of Tours abolished January 1st as the beginning of the year, because back then the people in medieval Europe knew that it was pagan. But I'll continue reading. At various times and in various places throughout medieval Christian Europe, the new year was celebrated on December 25th, the birth of Jesus, in which it's not, March 1st, March 25th, the Feast of Annunciation, and Easter. You know, it's ironic when it came to Christians at that time, right? Christians at that time during medieval Europe acknowledged that January 1st being acknowledged as the new year was pagan. Thus, a lot of the countries in medieval Europe banned January 1st as the new year, but yet they celebrate Christmas and Easter, which those two are also pagan days. This is also another article from history.com, right? And okay, the title says the Julian calendar takes effect for the first time on New Year's Day. In 45 BC, New Year's Day is celebrated on January 1st for the first time in history as the Julian calendar takes effect. Soon after becoming Roman dictator, Julius Caesar decided that the traditional Roman calendar was in dire need of reform. Introduced around the 7th century BC, the Roman calendar attempted to follow the lunar cycle, but frequently fell out of phase with the seasons and had to be corrected. In addition, the pontifices, right? The Roman body charged with overseeing the calendar often abused its authority by adding days to extend political terms or interfere with elections. In designing his new calendar, Caesar enlisted the aid of Janus, an Alexandrian astronomer, who advised him to do away with the lunar cycle entirely and follow the solar year, as did the Egyptians. The year was calculated to be 365 and a quarter days, and Caesar added 67 days to 46 BC, making 45 BC begin on January 1st, rather than in March. Another reason why the new year was changed from March to January was for political reasons. So the Romans wanted to mark a day when a new political leader would start their term, which would be the first day of the year. So there was a political and a religious or a pagan religious aspect to why the month of January was chosen as the first month of the year. Since we're under a system that we rely on for survival, this system follows that Gregorian calendar. So in a way, we do have to play the game in the system and also recognize certain days, but we don't have to fully venerate it if we understand the origin of these days. That's my opinion. I don't know what's yours, but whatever conclusion you have as a result of watching this video is up to you. All right? So I'm done educating you motherfuckers about this. Peace out.